What's up people, I'm Halls and this is Defeat the Enemy. Today we're taking a look at the PS Plus games for August 2015. As always, the games are in order from worst to best and reflect my own personal enjoyment of the games and not necessarily their actual quality. So with that said, let's get on with it. First up is Sound Shapes. I'd never heard of this game going in, didn't really have any idea what it was about. Turns out it's an indie 2D platformer with a music gimmick. Every collectible you pick up adds a different instrument to the background music, so it gets more and more complex as you go through the levels. Unfortunately, for a game focused on music, the music is actually pretty shit. The graphics are also unappealing and the gameplay is slow and dull too. Next up is Castlestorm. It's kind of a cross between Angry Birds and those awful one-dimensional mobile strategy games where your dudes and the opponent's dudes just walk into each other. It has a nice visual style, very reminiscent of World of Warcraft, and the music is pretty good too. It's actually not as bad as it sounds, but at the end of the day, it's just a cross between two different Flash games. There's no real depth to it, no real reason to play it. Next up is Limbo. Before playing, I thought it was an overrated, Emperor's New Clothes, pretentious indie game. I still do think that, but it is a bit better than I thought it was going to be. It's pretty polished, and the art and animation is pretty nice, and they do a good job of getting a story across with just silhouettes. I played it for longer than I was expecting to, but I didn't really enjoy it. It's moreish, but it's not really like fun gameplay. It's just, there's no convenient stopping point. By the time you decided you want to stop, you found another puzzle, and then you want to do the puzzle before you stop. And then by the time you've finished it, you're on to the next puzzle again. So it's like you keep playing it, but you're not really having that much fun. Or at least I wasn't when I played. Next up is Stealth Inc. 2. It's a 2D indie stealth puzzle game. It's surprisingly polished. It has really nice cartoon cutscenes. The graphics are nice and pretty stylish. The music is good too. Gameplay wise, it's decent enough. Not really my thing, but decently made. So if it's what you're into, it's probably a decent little game. Next up is Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris. It's a twin-stick puzzle platform shooter. The previous game was pretty good, this one's pretty good too. It's basically just more of the same. The graphics are good, the music's great, controls and gameplay are good, it has really good cartoony cutscenes. All round, just a decent little game. The story's a bit shit, and it was a bit disappointing that you can't choose your character, even though there's 4 characters in multiplayer. In single player you have to play as Lara Croft, but there we go. This month's winner is God of War Ascension. I played the demo a long time ago and thought it was shit. And on replaying it, I still do think that part of the game is shit. But it does actually get a lot better after that. It's still not as good as the numbered God of Wars, but it does seem to suffer from invisible war syndrome, which is it's underrated because it doesn't measure up to the game it's a sequel to. But it's still pretty good compared to a lot of games. The music and graphics are all great. Combat isn't as good as the other God of War games, but it's still pretty decent. It's let down by the way it's constantly showing off. It zooms out for these sweeping shots, so you can see like these amazing graphics and stuff. But at those times, this fight is still going on, but you have no way of telling what you're doing. Like you're a little ant having a little ant fight with loads of other ants. And you can't see when attacks are coming to parry them. You can't see if you're hitting anyone. It's just really fucking stupid. And ruins the whole thing, really. The story is also really badly told. I've got no idea what's going on. I know I'm supposed to be trying to get to Delphi, and I know some Furies are chasing me. That's it. I'm about 6 hours in. That's all I've managed to gather so far. It's just really, really badly done. I don't know who the Furies are, to be honest with you. I know they're chasing me, that's about it. So it all just goes on around you, and you just walk through these corridors, and like, story isn't really a factor whatsoever. But even though it starts out shit and it doesn't really explain what's going on, it does get pretty good later on. The gameplay wise, it's pretty decent, so it is my game of the month.